get there. Like it's just not going to happen. But you need to understand what integrating even means. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what is integrating? Integrating essentially, in the simplest form, is to reconnect the disconnected aspects of yourself internally because
Reconnect.
you are everything. Everything is coming out of you. So if I'm manifesting abandonment through relationships or not being heard or not being taken seriously or anything, that's a reflection of me because I am abandoning myself.
I'm highly spiritual. 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 Peace and love, friends and family. Welcome back to another episode of the Highly Emotional Podcast. Today, I have another great guest. He teaches people about emotional intelligence. He's a deep thinker just like me and everyone tuned into this platform. Welcome to the platform, the Highly Emotional Podcast, Arian Samouie.
Thank you for having me.
Did I say that correct or did I butcher
You,
it?
no, no, you did really good. Trust me. So many people get it so wrong. And that was one of the better ones.
I got to do my best every time, right? Like the four agreements. But yeah, bro. So I've been tuning in with your information for the last, I want to say, maybe 3 months. I've been seeing you pop up on my feed, and I love the message that you're saying when it comes to the spiritual side of it, consciousness, awareness. We're talking about emotional intelligence, which a lot of times for us men, we're taught and indoctrined to not be emotional. And this is the Highly Emotional Podcast where I became on my emotions or became aware of my emotions to the point that I realized it was my superpower. It was actually a gift because not a lot of people can be on that like empathetic level that I can, to where I can understand overstand how people feel when they're in emotional state. For example, if someone's grieving in a room, I can feel their grief. I can feel it within my bones and my core as if I had lost someone too. So when I see you talk about emotional intelligence, one, I want to know like, what is your definition on emotional intelligence? And then how did you stumble into emotional intelligence?
Well, how I stumbled into it was pain. Was I got to the third time in my life where I was literally a hair away from committing suicide. So at that stage, it was either a case of, okay, I have to either figure this out or kill myself. So I figured it out. That's what got me into it. Emotional intelligence for me, really, realistically, is more aligned to the understanding of how we work. If you are more emotionally intelligent, you are allowing yourself to work the way that you work. The resistance that we have as emotional beings to our emotions is not allowing us to work the way that we work as emotional beings. So, for someone to be, I'd say, the more emotionally intelligent one is the one that allows themselves to feel and use that emotion to the way that it is like being sent to you, which is a feedback, which is an understanding of yourself. That's what it is. It's a guidance system. Everything in your reality is communication. And, it opens up for the understanding of that. And emotions are your one of the main feedback guidance system understanding data that you are getting from your reality. So the more you're able to understand your emotions, the more you're able to feel the large array of emotions that exist, the more intelligent you are emotionally.
Yeah, so my thing is like I used to deal with depression to the point where it was my image, and I attempted suicide so many times also, to one point where I succeeded, and then I was resuscitated, and then I was in a vegetable state. And I felt like, and one of my questions for people who deal with or who have battled depression is, what would always push you there? Like, what would get you to the point where you felt like this was the best results? Because I feel like we kind of weigh our options, right? We're like, you know, maybe this is the best thing, is to just turn it off and reset, right? So what would drive you to the point where were ready to exit?
Well, to be honest with you, I have many ways of kind of describing this. What would drive you is suffering, being
Mm,
stuck in suffering. When, depression is no joke. It really, really isn't. The state of depression is one of the most challenging things a human being will ever go through. Um, Most of the time when people kill themselves, it's because they are stuck in despair. Despair is powerlessness. When you feel so powerless to change how you feel, change the situation, change what's going on, then the only option is the only release you have is to kill yourself. I'm speaking from personal experience of
facts.
being through it, and also, you know, I teach self-awareness. So I'm very much constantly always trying to understand, work out, figure out. So everything that I've been through in the past, I'm constantly raising my awareness about trying to understand. So when it comes to the place that I was, where I was like, oh, I need to just end this, it was because I was stuck and trapped in my suffering. I didn't see a way out. I didn't understand that there was even a way out. I wasn't aware enough to understand. And that's okay. It's not because I was incompetent or anything. We don't know what we don't know. And we're not taught these things. And I was never taught. The pain and suffering comes from disconnect, not necessarily a disconnect from your ex or your family or something. It comes from the disconnect of within yourself, a disconnect of the self. To go a little bit further into it and deeper into it, talking top level things here, that disconnect is created through the experiences that you've had, the traumatic experiences. For an emotional being, when you have many experiences, and I'm talking hundreds, if not thousands of experiences where you've not been able to regulate your emotions, those experiences have been so overwhelming for you that you experienced emotional distress without any resolution for that distress. And the way that you keep yourself safe in those moments is that you essentially experience a split in the consciousness, which creates additional aspects of yourself, parts of yourself. The part of yourself that is going through that overwhelming emotional distress, the way you protect yourself is by taking that part of yourself out of your awareness. And
Mm,
this is why we put it somewhere we're unaware of, which is our subconscious. This is the part of ourselves that we call the shadow.
yeah.
That's why shadow work is to bring into the light of consciousness the unconscious parts of yourself, because that's what healing is. It's to go into the shadow, understand these parts of yourself, and give them what they need. And if you don't know any of this and you're depressed and you're stuck in all of this,
The
of
suffering.
course, yeah, if you're stuck in the suffering due to the disconnect that you've experienced because of the experiences of your life, what options do you have? You don't have many options. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get high. I'm going to drink alcohol. I'm going to do whatever. And some people get so extreme, they go, oh, I'm going to have morphine and heroin. And when these things don't work anymore, what's the option?
Facts. I agree.
Yeah. So that's what essentially happens to people who either consider it or try it or achieve it, do it, commit suicide is it's pain. All addiction is pain. All suicide is pain. It's just we don't live in a time in humanity where this is truly understood.
I agree. I think that it took me enough time to understand what I was dealing with for me to overcome my suffering. And the thing about it is, like, now that I'm become more conscious on the conscious side of things, is that sometimes I how can I say, sometimes I miss that. Why? Why would I say that I miss it? I would say that I miss it because now I'm able to understand, take myself out of it, and then I can go back and look at the lessons. When I was suffering in the experience of, whether it's a breakup, whether it's self failure, whether it's past trauma, I still didn't learn the lessons at that time, to the point where when I did shadow work, even I feel like shadow work is something like you're gonna continue to just go through. But it took me 2 years to complete a portion of my shadow work. And it was things that I was suffering from that I didn't even realize. Something simple as, when I was a kid, they would say, "Oh, he's a bad kid. He's a bad kid," whether it was joking or me getting in trouble in class. But then that bad kid persona, I tended to or accept that for me. And then that became part of my identity when I was suffering from depression, is that I thought that I was a bad person. And after doing drugs and, freaking drinking all the time and having sex with all these women and just doing all this stuff, aggressive stuff, also, just to realize that that wasn't who I was. Does that make sense? Like, I was just accepting that for me at that time, but all that was doing is pushing me closer to the edge, to where I got to the point and I was like, looking at even looking at my family, I would look at them and be like, okay, I'm letting all these people down. I'm doing drugs. I'm having sex with all these women. I'm doing all this shit. And the best option would to be non-existent. To just quit. Like really, really quit. And I remember one of the craziest things that happened is, my dad called me when I was in the hospital, and they put the phone up to my ear, and he said, "Oh, you should have blew your brains out in the middle of the field, instead of chewing pills and asking for attention." And right then and there, I realized that the reason why I was affected by the trauma that I was affected is because it was passed down through generations, right? So that was a portion. But then, as I progressed, I realized that I needed to stay alive. Why? Because it was for the betterment, not of just myself, but those around me. Because the trauma that my dad had, I was created to break those generational curses for my children, and teach a lesson to the people who are connected to me. It's so crazy because when I was younger, or when I was in that state, I never thought that I held that purpose. I never thought that, even though I have a small purpose to the universe, to those around me, I play a purpose because it's an opportunity for them to grow based upon my experience. So, transcending out of that shadow into the light, to now where I've gotten to a deep portion of the light, where now I can look at my shadow, and now I can create alchemy by working with both of them. Because I truly feel that if you're too far right, too far peace and love, and then too far hate and revenge, you're an extremist. And when you go beyond duality, you realize that you have to just be both. I was
Yeah.
watching your video where you were saying that when you're trying to do something, that's the thing. If you're trying to be light, or trying. You're in a state of trying. So at that point, we just need to be. We need to be who we are and figure out, like you said, search within, see who we are. And I think that once we unlock these things, then we have a better understanding of not only ourselves, our purpose, but also God or whatever you may perceive it as. It you can find that by just being.
Yeah. It's identity is the biggest player in the experience of the reality that you're in. It's the biggest player. It's everything that's going to be mirrored back to you. It's everything that manifests in your existence. I talk about identity a lot when I'm talking to anyone in the community or students regarding manifesting. But it's really interesting to understand it because we are born and we don't know anything and we're learning. We're constantly trying to figure out as we're meant to be. This is what how we work. And we look at our parents, our caregivers, the people around us, our first social circle, which is our family unit, and we listen to them. They are the gods of our reality. Without them, we're dead. So like, oh, I must listen to you. And if you're constantly being told something, then you will adopt that identity, whatever that is. So if you're constantly being called the child who's the problem child or the bad child or something, you're going to take on that identity. And whatever you do, you're going to be labeled as the bad child. And you're like, oh, that behavior is bad. And I do it. And they're labeling me as bad. So I must be the bad child.
Hmm.
Let's go super deep with this because this will help anyone that's listening, really. What is your first name?
My first name,
Yeah,
Lachey.
Lachey. Lovely name, by the way.
Thank you.
Lachey. So that is your name. And how old are you?
I'm 30, about to be 35 on the 6th of February.
Okay, so 35 and Lachey. Now, even though you're on a path of not identifying as the bad child anymore, even, there will always be the shadow aspects of ourselves that have been so indoctrinated in that they're still going to keep coming up. So to define, and say like, I don't know, it's like, well, maybe parts of you do that we still don't know. But let's just, for argument's sake, all right, you're on that. You still identify as Lachey and you still identify as 35, but you're not. The only reason you have a name,
Hmm.
well, not the only reason, but the reason you have a name is because we need to figure out how to keep track of all of the humans that exist. I need to be able to reference you or refer to you or get your attention or something. So
Facts.
whether it's names or numbers or something. So even like just thinking like, oh, I'm not even Arian. I'm not. I am. There's a character. There's a name. The way that we're gonna reference that human being is we're gonna call that human being Arian. But realistically, I'm not Arian. And it's like, okay, well, you say you're 35. You only identify as being 35 years old because you live on planet Earth.
That's
That's
facts.
literally it.
Yeah.
You have been alive for the duration of time, which is not actually time works differently to the way we think. So a duration of time that has taken the Earth 30 to go around the sun 35 times. If we lived on Mars, your age would be different and you would identify as a different age. So even down to your name and age, you're still identifying. However that works. And if someone gets told and believes that 40 years old is too old or very old, and then when they're 35, they're identifying as 35 and they believe that 40 is old, guess what they're manifesting in their reality?
Old,
They,
age, aging. Yeah.
oh, my back hurts because of my age. No, your back hurts because you're not exercising.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, no, no. Oh, so to go even like deeper to understand, okay, I'm actually just conscious awareness. That's all I am.
Absolutely.
And I'm constantly being told in my reality, how I should believe whatever I should believe about myself, which is what's becoming my identity. My self-esteem is based on my identity. So, because I have been through this reality, experiencing all of these messages from my reality telling me that I can't do it and I need to slow down and I need to not do that and I shouldn't say that. And if I say this, I'm canceled. And oh, well, these all must be true. It's like, no, you can, to say you can create any reality you want is not necessarily true. But at the same time, it is.
I get
You
what you're
can
saying.
You can create, you can be whoever you want to be, and your reality will mirror to you what you are. But you are also in a reality, you are in a space where you're co-creating with everyone else as well. So, like, for examples, I can't create a reality where the wildfires aren't happening in LA right now. Like, that's just not possible. But I can create opportunities that will mirror to me my wealth and abundance. So, and that's based on my identity. So, if you want to go to the extreme of, well, hang on, if I'm not even my name, who is my name? What is that? That's a personality. That's an identity that I have continuously aligned with. And not because it's been forced on me. And yes, it has. It's been pushed onto you, and these beliefs have been pushed onto you. But by truly understanding that I am the one that has adopted them is so powerful because then it allows me to go, I can adopt something new and to go back to, the way that we do that is essentially through self-love. I'm not going to I'm not going to have a go at myself and beat myself up for adopting these things, for living life like humans do, like I should, like I do. But I can make choices where I start identifying differently.
So what, when it comes to dealing with, because I hear everyone talk about it, talking about stripping the ego. So what do you feel like is the best route to take when it comes to not identifying as things outside of you? I mean, would you say that the true self, I mean, obviously we said that it's consciousness, but is the true self just I am? And then everything that follows is what's becoming created in your perspective reality.
It's not this or that, it's this and that.
So a combination.
If you truly understand what I mean by that, your reality will exponentially change. You shouldn't strip the ego. There's a By even saying to strip the ego, there's an unconscious, we're making it wrong. You only need to strip something if it's wrong and oh, gotta take that away.
If it's poisoning you.
Yeah, the ego is not wrong. The ego is part of your being. The ego is here for you to be able to experience. The ego is actually for you, not against you. And one of the biggest struggles people, especially in the spiritual community, are facing is the rejection of self. And the self includes the ego
I
because
agree.
it's not this or that. In this reality, you are in reality. So, what I mean by that is it's not this or that, it's this and that. You are the spirit that is outside of here, and you are also the human being. You are also the ego. You are also the extension of the spirit that is here. You are also the hundreds, if not thousands, of aspects of yourself, parts of yourself. You are all of these things. And when we talk about things like this, we're being very specific. So if I was to be like very specific, if I was to, let's say my right arm right now has tattoos on it, my left arm doesn't. But if I say like, oh, well, I'm talking about the tattoos on my arm, I'm not discounting that my left arm is also an arm as well. It's also part of me. But I'm only talking about the tattoos on my right arm. I'm not discounting. So when we talk about you being the spirit or me being the spirit, unfortunately, in the spiritual community, everyone thinks, oh, that means that I'm not the human. I'm not the ego. I know you are. Like you can't jump in the deep end of a pool and go, no, 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 it's all right. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. No, you're gonna die. Like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
no, I'm not gonna die because spirits don't drown. I don't. It'll be fine. It won't. So to answer your question is to radically accept the ego, to understand that there is not one part of you that has one behavior or anything that is actually against you. If you do the exploration to any part of you that is behaving in a way that is undesirable to you and that is self-destructing to you or self-hating, if you get to the core of it, you will understand that that is actually a way that this part of you is trying to keep you safe.
I love it. Because the ego is truly your protection. It's there to protect you. I think that, and that's one thing like I hate about constructs, right? I dislike constructs because the moment that you say you're spiritual, everybody thinks that, you know, you get rid of your ego, you dress in all white, you know, you listen to meditation music all day, and you know, you eat fruits and vegetables, and that's it. And that's the thing about these constructs, is that when we think about what true spirituality is really just being conscious of your actions, being conscious of when it's time to use your shadow and when it's time to use your light. I said it so many times, but learning to work with my shadow, it is amazing because I can say, hey, not now, not now, shadow. Not I like to be extreme and I say, not now, demon. Not now, my demon. Let's put you to side. Let me step into my conscious or light, right? Let me step into that and let me observe and see if it really needs that much attention from my ego. Do I really need to be protected at this point? Or is this just an opportunity for me to just learn? I think that when you are into self-development, the opportunity to learn always exists, right? When you are dealing with something pushing you back, right? For example, like a heavy weight in the gym. When you're dealing with something that's pushing you back, now presents a point for you to kind of push through and ascend. If you're just lifting the same weights, you're not going to transform. You're not going to transcend to the next level. So when we talk about like the ego and we talk about the shadow and we talk about the demons and all these other things, what it really truly is an opportunity to observe, seek understanding, and then learn the lesson. Back to what you were saying on one of your reels, is you were talking about fear. We hear these words fear and we say, oh, don't operate from fear. But I'm not going to lie. Fear is actually super exciting because when you think about fear, when you really, really observe how your emotions feel when you're in that feeling of fear, it's kind of like excitement. It's like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know how this is going to go. But when you can live in that and you can sit with that emotion, it actually is a great feeling. It's like meeting a girl for the first time, right? And or a person you love for the first time, somebody you're attracted to for the first time. There you go. Let me clear it up for anybody, right? You meet somebody that you're interested in, and the first feeling that you feel is those butterflies in your stomach because you're like, I don't know if I'm using the right words. I don't know if that is such a great emotion because when you sit with it, you can let it take over your body and it just feels so amazing. The attraction is so high, the frequency is so high. And then if you can truly sit in it, then you can enjoy the presence of sharing that fear because that person doesn't know you either, and chances are they probably fear or feel something along the same lines. I think that the negative connotation of the word fear is what everybody thinks of. Everybody thinks that when you talk about fear, you're scared, which means, you won't do it. You'll back out, which maybe you will. But acknowledgement of that fear, sitting with that fear, I think that's a beautiful thing too. And how you touched on it, I thought it was dope how you were talking about, in the middle of a river or in the middle of a pool, in the middle of the ocean, that fear. But I think also, I was talking to my brother yesterday, is that imagine being in the middle of the ocean, too far from shore, but knowing that you can either survive by swimming back to shore, maybe a boat may come by, or maybe you just get too tired, you'll drown, or you get ate by something because you're in this territory. Now, I think those are the opportunities where God presents itself at that point of fear. And if you can acknowledge it, if you can sit with it, I think then you can have that bliss and gratitude and understanding of God. And that, in that format, in that moment, I think God presents itself.
Well, fear is a very interesting one, and it's something that I've recently been on very, very extremely. I've actually just come from an ayahuasca retreat, and I went the closer I integrated not my fear, but fear that creates reality. Now, I want to talk about that, but before I do, I just want to go back a little bit because it's very, very important to talk about this specifically. So, all of your emotions, 100% of them, are communication. It's a
Yep.
guidance. It's to let you know whether you're in or out of alignment of your natural healthy state. If you are in alignment, you feel the higher emotional, vibrational frequency emotions such as joy, love, or enlightenment. If you're out of alignment, you feel the lower vibrational frequency emotions such as fear itself as an emotion, anger, grief, guilt, apathy, despair, jealousy. Now, it doesn't mean that it's wrong to feel the lower or it's bad or you shouldn't. It's just these are kind of like the rules of how you work. It's I'm teaching you how you work and what your emotions are. So just know that when that is happening, it's a communication to you. So for example, if a car's coming at me 90 mile an hour and I feel fear, then that is a warning feeling. That's what fear is. Fear is a warning feeling.
Agreed.
If I feel anger, there's a reason for it. It's there's fear under it for sure. Yes, 100% of the time. Anger is a cover emotion, but anger is also telling me what's not okay with me. Anger is also telling me what I find to be I feel powerless to. That's why despair is commonly under anger as well. So it's all a communication for me to be able to understand myself and my reality. Now, one thing you said that I always mention whenever I'm talking to anyone is you mentioned my demons. And it's vitally important to know that there are no demons within you at all.
I like
We do
that.
not, we do not have demons at all. The parts of yourself that feel like demons are being presented to you as demons as a way of your mind is translating or transmuting that communication to you. Sometimes people see parts of themselves and like, oh my God, it's a scary demon. It's like, well, that's how it's being presented to you. But if you stay with it long enough, you see that it's just a child self crying.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important to know. And as good as it is to be able to go, okay, I have the awareness that I'm feeling what I'm feeling right now. Even in my attempts, there are so many attempts and practices out there that we learn and we adopt and everything, or that we just try out ourselves. And this is where, like, it's really important to understand. If I'm even going, okay, you know what, I feel that, but should I really be scared, or something like that? What I'm actually doing is I'm cutting the communication off. There's an element of, okay, why is this even here? I need to understand what this trigger of emotion is. This is a part of me that's coming forward. So if I feel the fear, even when I'm logically understanding that I I never use the word should or shouldn't because in these moments it has no place. But let's say I shouldn't be scared. All right, well, if I shouldn't be scared and I am scared, that needs more exploration.
Mm,
Why am I scared?
yeah.
Why is this fear even? It's a communication, it's a guidance system. So, like, okay, now that doesn't mean that in the moment I need to just exclude everyone and go, right, guys, I'm just gonna go do some journaling or I'm gonna do some integration or something like that. But I can revisit it later. I can put myself in a state of imagination of being in that same thing, trigger the same fear, or do some journaling and go, well, how did I feel? And eventually get to that part of myself. And that's essentially how, and the goal is always to integrate. So the trigger itself is the awareness to that part of yourself, kind of like a fishing hook. So we use the trigger as a fishing hook to go towards, or better yet, bring that part of ourselves more in alignment with us so we understand and we're able to integrate whether that requires us to go and meet unmet needs and validate in a state of imagination, or whether I have to meet the needs externally from changing my behaviors, or whether I need to speak to someone else who is safe to me, who understands, might be a partner or a friend or someone like that, and explain to them what I need. So it's all about getting those unmet needs met. And if fear is coming up, going into fear now, fear is a warning feeling. Now, you have in creation, we talk about contrast, and literally this tattoo here, this sleeve, I'm gonna have two sleeves. This sleeve is the shadow, and this sleeve is the light. Contrast exists in reality. It's how anything exists. We're here to learn, to grow, to expand. The universe is expanding. You cannot grow or expand if there is not a path to go down. So you are, like you said earlier about the gym, you cannot get stronger if you are not at that level of strength or weaker. Like,
Yeah.
so there has to be something contrast. It's like a battery has a positive and negative, and negative is not a bad thing. It's just a state. It's a state of energy, and creation also has the positive and negative. You
Masculine and feminine.
masculine and feminine,
Yeah.
yes. But I'm not even talking about masculine and feminine at this point. I'm literally just talking about the energetic states of creation. So you have the higher energetic state, which is what we call love. And this is why everyone's like, everything is love, all is love. It's like, no, first of all, we'll come back to that. A huge coping mechanism. Um, but so you've got love, and then you've got the other energetic state, which is the opposite of love, that we have called fear. That's what we've named it. So this is not the emotion of fear. This is the energetic state of fear, which is the opposite of love. Now, on my ayahuasca trip, without going too much into detail, I've actually done a video about it on YouTube, so I go deeper into it there. But on my ayahuasca trip, every time I do plant medicine, I always strip back reality. So I'm always like in the nothingness that is here, and I say everywhere. And it's weird to describe nothingness because by definition it's nothing. So by describing it, I'm making it something which makes no sense. So it's just something that humans can't really wrap their head around. Not even me as a human, but me as the soul has seen it, so I understand it a little bit more in that sense. I just can't explain it.
Because you had to experience it, right?
You have to experience it, yeah. So I have been stripped back many times. So I've seen the nothingness, and then leading up to this ayahuasca trip, I was constantly being told by the universe, like, you need to be brave, move forward, even though the fear is there and everything. And I'm like, what is going to happen? Everything in your imagination is your connection to yourself, to your spirit self, to the reality experience of yourself before the 3D matter. So
Mm,
how you communicate to yourself and how you heal, how you do all of these things is through your imagination. So when you're on the plant medicine as well, the experiences and everything is all happening through the imagination because that's where your internal world is. That's how you access it. The expression of what you're going through or what you're learning is how you would see it or understand it. So, for example, if there was red energy and you and I both were able to see the red energy, you might see it as roses and I might see it as hearts, but it's still the red energy, but it's our own
Perception.
expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, perception. So I started going. I've been taping my mouth shut at night, which is hugely beneficial to me. And I got told it was like, right, you need to breathe through your mouth. I know you've been learning to breathe through your nose, but you need to breathe through your mouth now, right now. I was like, okay. So I started breathing and I started again. I was like, oh my God, this is like, and my whole body started shaking and I started feeling like my reality was shaking. And what was happening is I was being brought closer and closer to fear, the energetic state of fear. And it was presented to me as this like white wolf with red eyes. It's like, and I had to breathe more, and they were like, breathe more. I was like, okay, so, and then eventually it was aligned, and I was aligned with fear. And my goal was to tame fear. So I had to stay there and breathe, and I was breathing really, really hard at this point. I felt like my body started sweating instantly, like because everything that you tap into, you there's a key to tap into any energy in existence. So like for example, I like to play football. When I play football, playing football is my key to tap into the energy state of joy.
Not American football, right?
No, 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 no. You also call it soccer. Um, so the same thing. So by at this stage, I was tapping into fear. So my entire body, I felt like I was in the center of a bonfire. And I had to essentially tame it because I had to do that to be able to understand the next levels of my teachings because I learn about reality, how reality manifests, and that's what I teach. So I was doing that, and I realized like, wow, fear is phenomenal. It is a formidable force in reality. And I realized like it is half of creative force. That you've got positive, let's say, like a battery, which we're calling love, and negative, which we're calling fear, but not in a bad way, just states. You got 50% here and 50% here. And it's like, of course, fear is literally 50% of all of creation in terms of having the ability to create from that energy. So that brought with it an unbelievable amount of respect. An unbelievable. I was like, whoa, I didn't understand. Like fear is formidable. I respect it so much. And I'm giving you a short version here. But then the next day we did another ceremony and like it was like, okay, let's continue on with the teaching. So then at that stage I was shown like the energies like love and fear, and there was a gradient of color in between them. It was like a kind of a sunsetty orange for love, and then it went into a black of for fear. And I realized I got taken down into this like cloud of what fear exists, and I just saw like all the souls that are trapped in fear,
Mm.
trapped. And this is if you listen to the works of like Dolores Cannon, she talks about being stuck on the wheel of karma. That's
Was that?
essentially
Say that name one more time.
Dolores Cannon.
Got you.
She talks about being stuck on the wheel of karma. So the people that are stuck on the wheel of karma are trapped in fear. And I was like, I was just going through, and I again just had this like overwhelming respect and admiration for fear. And I was like, you're amazing. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? Like, you are phenomenal. You're fucking amazing. And I hugged fear and I was like, you know what? I love you. I was feeling so much love for fear in that moment. And as soon as I hugged it, fear, the energetic state, it kind of like swirled around me, and it transformed from black to green, and it went lifted me up like that and kind of went around me and gave me like body armor. I became like this transformer type thing, and it was all green, and there was like a connection and huge integration that I felt, and I could just breathe better. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And I realized that that was the first time in my life that I was actually aligned with creation. I was no longer here or there or there. I was in perfect alignment with creation. And then at that stage, because I had integrated with the energetic state of fear, I was able to talk to fear. And I was like, what? I was like, this is so cool. I was like, this is amazing. And fear was just talking to me. I was like, oh my God, you are actually really cool. Like, you are so amazing, so cool. And he was like, fear was like, yeah, I just get a bad rep from everyone because everyone thinks that I'm keeping them here. And then that's when I was shown that I'm a more understanding of free will, of I thought originally fear was like this state of energy where it tries to trick you, kind of like what you hear about like the devil. The devil's tricking you, and the devil's trying to keep you there, and the devil's trying to keep you low. I thought that's what fear was, and it's not. Like, we truly, truly have free will, because all the souls that I was like going through, and I could see through the experiences of our lives, we unconsciously keep ourselves in that energetic state in that way because we believe fear to be a certain thing and a certain way. And the indoctrination of society, what you see in marketing, billboards, TV, social media, everything that is continuously making you use your free will along with the experiences you had in your life, which are the main players anyway, of the fear-based beliefs that are keeping you down, that are keeping you keep yourself lower, that are not allowing you to grow. And you're not consciously even doing this. This is so unconscious to you. It's why self-awareness is the most important thing. And if constantly people are just trapped in fear-based beliefs because of the experiences they've had, which is the trauma, the emotional distress without resolution. By not having resolution for the hundreds and thousands of experiences of emotional distress that you've had, you're in that fear-based energy, seeing it in the way that you've been experiencing it and been taught to see it. And that is the main reason why you're not able to manifest your love, your wealth, your
Ooh,
success, it's because you're using that energy that creates reality in that way.
that makes total sense. As you were saying this, it reminded me of one. It reminded me of two things. It was Outwitting the Devil. I don't know if you ever read that book, but Outwitting the Devil is realizing that the devil is truly you, right? And the reason why it's you is because even though you're doing it unconsciously, it's still you because you are choosing to give this emotion attention. We choose to get on our phones and scroll and tune in and watch this clip for 30 seconds, even though we're doing it unconsciously,
Yeah.
but we're still choosing it. You choose to be affected by the devil. You chose these things because you didn't realize how it's keeping you in a state. I like what you said when you said you talk to fear. It made me think about that Pixar movie that came out where they talk about the different emotions. I don't know what it's called right now, right?
I know.
And so when you're talking about fear, it made me realize that fear is just something that has to happen. It has to be a part of your human growth, as your self development, as you're continuing to go. But
Are you talking about the emotion of fear now?
I'm talking it's actually a little bit of both because you have to apply these things, or these things have to affect your reality. They have to coexist, right? It's good versus bad. But truly, when you stood in between, both of them equaled the same thing. They created one because you were in between at that point, right? So it's like a state, but a lot of people, when you talk about the people that you observed, a lot of people are stuck in there. They're stuck in that realm. I like I say it all the time, and sometimes I feel like I'm very judgmental because I try to explain to people. I'm like, bro, you doing this shit to yourself, bro. You want to drink poison every day. You're doing this to yourself. The thing about it is we want to put the blame and point the finger at everyone else, but it's truly us. It's us that's putting us in that low vibrational state, or what you called it, the fair realm, or however you broke it down. A lot of people are stuck in that rate or in that space because they chose it, bro. They're still choosing it. They're not conscious of that they're choosing it, but they have the opportunity to transcend beyond that. But that I think it does get a bad rap. It does get a bad rap to the point where everybody wants to blame the devil. Everybody want somebody, you go out and cheat on your wife, you say the devil made me do it. And then that brings me to like where my beliefs are on religious perspectives is that let's say let's say let's say you get cancer, right? And when you get cancer, they say, "Oh, the devil's trying to attack his body." But if you die, what they say is God called him home, right? And so that's a contradiction because the devil was giving you cancer, but then God brought you home. But what if, because if that's the case, if God called you home, then that means that cancer had to get you home. You had to ride the bus of cancer to get you home. So that brings in the question of if we look at the devil and God, wouldn't God be the devil also? Do you get what I'm saying? Is like you
No,
had to you had to get cancer to go to heaven if God called you home. And so when we break down these the pyramid of God and devil and demon and this and that, you realize that God created both of these things, what you would call the light and the darkness. God created both. So when you're saying this, it just makes me realize that we push everything aside and place the blame on everything outside of us, even when you do something great for yourself, even
yeah,
even when you do get that body in the gym or you start eating healthier, you transform your life, you're quick to give this person or this system the gratification, the joy and the praise. But you have to praise yourself. It starts with you and how you perceive these things that's happening. That's kind of like why I stopped doing the praying thing, because I felt like I would only pray in the times of emergency or when I had an expectation. But my alignment with God has now made me realize that everything is in my favor. Even if you step into low vibrational energy or high vibrational energy, everything is in my favor. I just have to take control of it and set my intentions for what I want, for the reality that I want. Obviously, yes, we're coexisting, but how I perceive my reality is all my choice.
yeah. It's um, it's it's m- it's a really challenging one. I remember myself at the early stages of my journey. It's really challenging to hear that I'm the one that's doing this to me and just be like, oh, okay, you know what? That's all right. Yeah, I'll just change. Like, because it comes with so many different things. Like you are the awareness and every single trigger is communication. So even a conversation you might be hearing, a podcast or something, or even a friend telling you that, hey, you're making a choice. I want to make it extremely clear to everyone that even though the reality is that we are making a choice, it doesn't mean that it's your fault. Because a lot of us have, most of us have been brought up in a society and an upbringing where I was being blamed for the bad things happening to me. So you're being punished because you didn't listen. You're being like this because of you. This terrible thing happened to you because of you. And that's in itself trauma. That's in itself, that's not okay what happened to you to be told that. It's not okay to for you to be told that it's your fault. And this is where a lot of people will struggle to kind of get out because the reality is it is an unconscious choice that we're constantly making. But if I hear that and I've still got all those wounds, it's going to be hard for me to heal. Here. Also, it's unconscious. You don't know what you don't know. So you know what you know, you can know what you don't know, and then there's also you don't know what you don't know. For example, if you're watching this on video, you know what my couch behind me looks like because you can see it. You're like, oh, I know that. You know I have a camera, but you don't know what that camera looks like. So you know what you don't know. But you don't know what's behind my camera. So you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know how far like the space between the camera and the next wall is. You don't know. So you don't know what you don't know. And that's what stage you're at if you're listening to this and there's frustration and everything. It's because you don't know. And unfortunately, I've done it as well. And unfortunately, when someone says to you, oh, you're making the choice, you just, it's understandable that will piss you off. It's understandable that it's going to bother you. It's
Yeah, you get
understandable
offended.
that sucks. Yeah, that's so understandable. When you're doing the work, the integration work, when you're healing, when you're raising your self-awareness, increasing your emotional intelligence on that path requires you to become aware of aspects of yourself that you are unconscious of. The unconscious aspects is what you don't know. So the more you work on it, the more you will know. And you will automatically, as an outcome, change behaviors. So where if you're addicted to a substance like I was addicted to alcohol, I was addicted to weed. I used to get
You were
high every
addicted to weed? That's crazy.
yeah, I used to get high every single every I used to wake up an hour after I was awake because I learned that I shouldn't really do it when I wake up because my body's still waking up all the chemicals. So I waited an hour and until I went to sleep that evening, I was high all day.
Wow.
And I was doing that and everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's bad. Whilst they're drinking alcohol, by the way. It's like, oh, it's bad and you shouldn't do that and everything. And I used to beat myself up about it. And like, but then I realized I truly learned that what addiction is. And I thought to myself, why am I having weed? And then I was like, I'm going to be super honest with myself. I'm having weed because it makes me feel better. It feels great. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. And then I went, why do I need to feel better? What's wrong with the way that I'm feeling right now?
Mm.
And that is it's so simple, but it's one of the most profound things that a human being can do in every single sense of the way of everything, whether it's alcohol, weed, social media, shopping, sex, whatever it is. Why do I need to try and make myself feel better? It's because of the way that I feel. Okay, let me explore that. That is how I grab the aspects of myself that I don't know by understanding why I am not feeling as good as I want to.
So were you addicted to weed or were you addicted to the feeling of not being yourself, like your sober self in a sense.
Well, I mean both, and
Cause that's kind of my thing is like I feel like how can I say this? I feel like I think that we get addicted to the feeling because we're running from the feeling of being sober, like of how the things affect our
pain.
emotions.
Yeah,
And
it's
yeah,
how we drown out
facts,
the pain. So
facts.
if I've gone through many experiences, traumatic experiences in my life. If my sober state is painful, it's because of my trauma. And
Mm,
I don't know how to resolve it. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to handle it. So I need something to take me away from that feeling. Every single decision a human being makes, 100% of every single decision is because of how it's going to make us feel. 100% of everything. So if I'm choosing to have weed, it's because of how it's going to make me feel. If I'm choosing to eat all day, it's because of how it's going to make me feel. If I'm choosing to have alcohol, it's because of how it's going to make me feel. It might be because, oh, I just want to, it's how I wind down and have,
yeah,
well, yeah, that's again how it's going to make you feel.
yeah, that's facts. That's
So,
facts.
so 100%. So yes, there's the chemical imbalance and the chemical part of it plays a role, but realistically, whenever I was having weed, it was because of how it's going to make me feel. It's going to make me feel calmer. I'm not going to have all these thoughts running in my head constantly, just going and going. My mind is fucking crazy, constantly going. It makes my body feel better. It relaxes me. Why am I not relaxed? Because the thoughts that I'm having unconsciously from my trauma, my past experiences, are all activating the stress response in my body. That is extremely painful to me. And because I've been doing it my entire life, I think it's normal. It's not healthy. It's
Mm,
not what a state of a human being should be. But because I've always experienced that, I don't know any better. And because I'm numb to it, I'm unconscious of it. I have no idea. You are the conscious awareness. Everything, 100% of things in your reality is a feedback to you, including your emotions. Your emotions are how you feel. The way you interact with this 3D reality is through your senses. You feel, you touch, you hear, you smell, you taste, you see. If I removed all of those things from you, you wouldn't be able to interact with this 3D reality, but you'd still be here. You would be the spirit you, the observer you.
mm,
So understand that how you feel is a way of communication to you. So by following the reasons why I feel the way I do will raise your awareness to a part of yourself or a behavior, which will then eventually get to a part of yourself. And then from there, you have choices. You have multiple new choices that you can make. And through the integration, the same things will not make you feel the same way. And then that's when your reality starts to shift and change, is by doing that integration work. The awareness is great. And some parts of yourself only need the awareness. Other parts of yourself only need to be felt. But there are so many parts of you that need a deeper, much deeper understanding and validation and having their unmet needs met, whether it's in a state of imagination or whether it's a behavioral change or whether it's a need that you need externally from someone else because we are a relationally dependent species. And that integration is what is going to change who you are, the version of yourself that you want to be. So by thinking that I just want to be abundant is nowhere near
it's
enough.
not enough. Yeah.
It's nowhere near like so far away. This is why I truly hate this whole all you got to do is do these affirmations. Like
Yeah, yeah,
no,
that's bullshit.
no.
That's
Yeah,
bullshit.
it's really not. And this is again going back to what we were saying about positive vibes only and everything is love and things. It's all bullshit. It's because it's such a huge coping mechanism. It's such a huge
It's, people are abusing it.
rejection. It's a
Yeah,
rejection of 50% of reality. And the path and the goal of spiritual people is not enlightenment. It's authenticity, to be the most authentic you that you can be. And the only way that you can be the most authentic you that you can be is to do the work. And then when you're being the most authentic and you're doing the work, you see that everything about the good and the bad is you. And because it's radical self-acceptance. And when you radically accept yourself to that degree, you radically start accepting reality to that degree, which includes other people as well. It doesn't mean you have to have them in your life, and it doesn't mean you should be okay with any bad or unhealthy behaviors, but you have so much more awareness, and you can even get to a place of compassion if you want to, depending on how deep you've gone.
I like that. I love how you break it down because, like I said, everybody has that perspective of peace and love, brother. Like it doesn't all have to be that way for sure. So my question,
That's a rejection right there.
that's facts. You're right. It's an escape. It's an escape. You're trying to be you're back to what we said. You're trying. You're
Mhm.
you're trying. You're not being authentically you, right? So how did you transcend into this? Like what steps do you think it takes to one become aware of all these emotions? Like do you have like a writing technique? Is there like a breathing technique, a meditation that you like stumbled across? This because I tell people all the time, I've been on so many depression medications, but the one thing that got me through it and saved my life and continues to save my life now is meditation. There has not been anything better than meditation. And I'm not talking about just sitting down and meditating. I'm talking about even going out in nature barefoot, hugging trees and connecting to the planet. That has cured my depression, and not even just my depression. If I'm having a bad day or I want to manifest something, right? Even those affirmations aren't enough. Sometimes I have to go and get myself, my mind, my mental in the emotional state of walking towards that abundance that we're talking about, walking towards what you're trying to manifest. Is like I had to put myself in that meditative state or step out into nature, and then I can get my mind state right to where I can say, all right, now I can walk towards my affirmations or my manifestation.
I mean, to kind of simplify the answer, um, it's not to do one thing. It's to do many different things. This is what I mean. Like when someone looks at affirmations, they'll be like, all right, and there's like so many YouTube videos out there that like use this affirmation to manifest this. And it's like, no, like that is a tool. Affirmations are great. They truly are.
That's
All right.
facts.
But it's a tool. And if you're not using it properly, it will not work. But if you're only using that tool, it will not work. So understand that you have many tools, journaling, affirmations, self-awareness is itself is, I necessarily wouldn't say a tool, but at the same time, it can be a tool. The types of meditations that you do, I have, so on in my course, I have it's a 6 week course, and each week has exercises. The first week is like journaling with specific prompts. So you're understanding through learning, educating yourself of how you work, how you're actually playing in this game of life, that you are multiple personalities. Learning how to integrate has been I'd say the biggest one. The main one is to learn how to integrate, because if you're doing any of these things without integrating, you're not going to get there. Like it's just not going to happen. But you need to understand what integrating even means. Like, what does that even mean? What is integrating? Integrating essentially, in the simplest form, is to reconnect the disconnected aspects of yourself internally, because
Reconnect.
you are everything. Everything is coming out of you. So if I'm manifesting abandonment, through relationships or not being heard or not being taken seriously or anything, that's a reflection of me because I am abandoning myself, part of myself. So in order for me to attract someone that will not abandon me, I have to stop abandoning myself.
Ooh, yo, you speaking bars. That one, yeah, I like it.
And that will change my 3D reality.
Yeah.
So it's all, and I can only do that through the integration because all parts of me that are in the shadow feel disconnect. And I have to bring them in. So by bringing them in, there's a reconnection. That's the integration. That is the main thing that you need to do. And that's why I'm in my course, the 6 week essentially is loads of things, but it's like that is to learn how to do that. And everything else is part of it. But I want to go a little bit deeper into meditation. To meditate essentially is to become familiar with the self. You're becoming familiar with yourself. Now, yourself, remember I said earlier, if I was to, we interact with the world with our five senses. If I was, if I went blind, I would lose that way that I interact with the 3D reality, but I'd still have my four senses. If I lose all of them, I'd still be here. That observer self would still be here. That is the self that we are going to when we are meditating. That's why we close our eyes when we're meditating, because we're removing the distraction of sight. We listen to certain music because we're removing the distraction of other sounds. This is why, like, the most advanced um, spiritual people can also do it without sound as well, or even with sound in the background, because they visualize that sound and there's a detachment which allows them to focus on themselves. If I lay down or sit down or have a weighted blanket on me, it removes my sense of feel of my body so I can detach from the body because I'm not moving it. If I keep moving my body, I'm very aware that my body is here. So by sitting down and doing all these things, we're removing as much as we can from the 3D reality in order to focus more on the self. So meditating is one of the most powerful tools because no one is aware that, well, what's going on in the societies that we live in and we're brought up. We don't learn to meditate or anything like that. And we're just experiencing reaction from reaction to trauma from reaction. And we're constantly just going. We're not even aware what I am. This is why we have, everyone says, I found myself. I'm on a path to finding myself. It's because you're on a path to kind of work through all of the distractions to go like, this is who I am. But then it's not this or that, it's this and that. So I'm also the wounded part of myself. I am also the ego. I am also the child selves that I have that are still crying, that are very angry, that are stuck in despair. I am also my suffering. That's why I need to understand my suffering. That's why I need to understand all of these parts of myself to integrate them, to bring them back in, to go from a state of disconnect to connection. And that is how I find myself. And self love, you cannot practice self love if you are not integrating. You just cannot. It's not possible because you are not accepting the parts of yourself and bringing them in that feel disconnected to connect with them.
Yeah, because you're trying to pretty much push your shadow away. You have to love both. You have to love all parts of you.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
like
that's the thing as well. Shadow, a lot of people, hear shadow or darkness or something like that, and they think it's like evil or bad or something. All shadow means is unaware of. You're just unconscious of. That's literally all it is. That's why it's the shadow. It's the parts of yourself that you're unaware of. And a lot of people will be like, you have to you have to accept the bad. It's like, who's defining it as bad?
yeah, that's facts. That's facts. That's perspective based. Bad and good is perspective based, and you know, I think that you have to seek understanding of who you are to
Mhm.
perceive what bad and good is. Because if your measurement of bad is based upon someone else, then you don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So
that's really interesting. Bad or good, right and wrong. Let's go to the extreme levels. Are all subjective.
yeah,
All
I agree.
like any decision. So like let's say I could be like you made the wrong decision, you know, and that's my perspective. But for you, that decision wasn't the wrong decision. It was the right decision. And it's like who's right and who's wrong. Honestly, from the objective perspective, no one.
Yeah,
No one's right or wrong.
I love it.
So, which means that you get to choose your right or wrong. And this is the same for normal. Everyone goes like, "Oh, that's not normal." It's like, do you know what the definition of normal is? The definition of normal is to conform to a standard. That's
Ooh,
it. So, if I create a standard and you conform to that, that is your normal. That's why different cultures have different normals. There are cultures out in the world that get their loved ones every year after they've passed out of their grave, clothe them, and take pictures with them.
that's crazy. That's
Uh,
like, see what I'm saying? Even me saying that's crazy,
yeah,
but to them, that's their norm.
they're normal. Entire cultures do this, and to them it seems normal. To others, it doesn't seem normal. Who's right? Who's wrong?
No one.
Neither.
Yeah.
No one is right or wrong. So understand that you get to choose your own normal. And if someone says to you that's not normal, it's like that's a standard I don't want to conform to anymore,
I
because
like
I'm
it.
choosing my own normal. I want to do this. I want to do that. Or it's not normal. It's normal to have a drink. I don't want to drink.
I don't
That's
like
not
the
my
way it
normal.
makes me feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's not my normal anymore. So normal and then right or wrong, and you go, okay, well, there's got to be a right or wrong objectively. Is there? Like what? Like
Hey, don't
you
ask me, because I'm an extremist when people say that, because I like to bring up the worst scenarios, and then I say, listen, I said this before on my podcast, but I say Hitler, right? On our perspective, we can say Hitler's a bad person, right? Based upon what has been told to us. But to who maybe Hitler had represent at the time, or his own beliefs, he probably thought he was doing something good. And that's how the world is. Even I said it before, if there is nobody to exist, right? That nobody else is around, does good or bad exist? No. It does not exist. And so we talk about these norms and all this other bullshit, bro, but they're just constructs that you're willing to sacrifice who you are to fit in this box. Everybody looks at me as a guy with diamond teeth and tattoos on my face, and they sit here and say, "Oh, he must be a gang member, or he went to jail." And I say, no, I'm extremely intelligent. I read books all the time. I don't even I used to work in the music industry, but now I've transcended into more like podcasting, reading books and meditation, and teaching people how to shift their reality and overcome their trauma, right? So that's the thing. On a norm, to societal norms, to other people's norms, someone with face tats and dreadlocks and all this other stuff may be representative of somebody who went to jail, but that's not my norm. My
no.
norm is just being authentically, like you said, authentically me, authentically you. That is, if anything, we're gonna say the norm. That is the norm, to just be authentically you at all times.
Well, that's definitely that's the success of life. One of the things that I've learned recently as well is what success actually is. And you touched upon it there. And I was always grappling with what is success in life. And we all know that, like, there's a way of societal believing what success is, but then you
Yeah,
go, "No, well, other people's success is different.
yeah.
One person's success is different to someone else." But I went even deeper with that. And I understood that You're living life. Do you know what? I'm gonna turn this light on because where I am, daytime has gone. Let me just turn this light on.
You're good. By the way, we're 5 hours apart. It's so crazy.
We started and there was sunlight. And now
Yeah,
we're what, an hour and 20 minutes in and it's different.
yeah.
So you're experiencing life. The common, I think I moved that there. The thing that's the thing that's the most you're experiencing life. The thing that is predominantly the same with every single experience you have is you. That's what life is. It's experiences. The thing that's always the same is you. You are experiencing life. You are the conscious awareness driving in the human being. Yes, you are the human being as well. It's this or that. But you are the consciousness. You are the conscious awareness. That is the one that is experiencing the life. So, and this is where evolution comes in as well. For us, we could easily look at humans and go, oh, we're very evolved. But we're not. We're really, really not. We are all conscious awareness. The other animals and other things are consciously aware as well. Human beings like lions, tigers, the gazelle, insects, fish, birds, we're all conscious awareness. Humans have the luxury to evolve. And to evolve as a conscious awareness is to become more aware, to become more aware of that awareness. And if I'm becoming more aware of the awareness is I need to become aware of myself. So we have the luxury to be able to be consciously aware enough to ask, what is the self? What am I? Which allows our expansion, our evolution to by in this life. So evolution is the conscious awareness becoming more aware of itself. We can progress. So we have progressed in technology, we have progressed in so much. But the progression in technology and building skyscrapers and all these cars and planes and everything, which is amazing. I think it's great. But that is not a representation of evolution. So going back to success, what is success in life? Well, if in order to live, you need to evolve. And in order to evolve, you are going towards the self. The more you go towards the self, the more authentic you become because you're raising self awareness. So the more you raise self awareness, the more you become. So success is being the most authentic in life. If I can be the most authentic that I can be, then I
Mhm.
am succeeding in this game of life
Absolutely.
because I'm evolving, I'm going more towards the self. Now, if I'm able to create environments where I can be the most authentic me, that's even more successful. If I'm in a relationship where I can be the most authentic that I am,
Ooh,
if I can be
yeah.
vulnerable, if I can be frustrated, angry, if I can share my desires, my deepest, darkest desires, then that is success to me. Now, what I realized in all of this is that I've constantly been working on that, and I always will be, especially with what I teach. I'm someone who lives by my teachings as well. So I truly see myself as one of the most successful people on the planet
As you
because
should.
I'm allowing myself to be me, and I've created a reality and environments where the people in my life, my family, allow me to be me. I allow my partner to be her. She allows me to be me. We have a child as well that when we're all together, we're all allowing each other. And we catch ourselves not doing it. We catch ourselves, and I'm like, hey, this is happening. And she says it, and he says it. And
Yeah.
so we are also continuously working on it. And that's how I see the success of life. The success of life is to be the most authentic you can be and evolve through raising self-awareness. That is literally why I teach self-awareness.
I like that. Yeah, that's deep. I think that I think that's a good stopping point too to put a pin in it, man. I think that the number one thing is for us to grow and learn how to be authentically us and step into questioning, asking the questions, who are we? Right? And not stopping, not finding a place of complacency when it comes to um understanding yourself, when it comes to learning yourself. Every day presents an opportunity for you to continue to grow and learn and figure out who you are in this game, as we call it, of life. You can stand at 2 points while being at 1 point, right? You can be in the experience or you can be out the experience, but you can be both at the same time. And that's where the magic happens. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for whoever's tuning into this. Thank you for just helping someone who needed this, bro. Because as we both know, bro, if we would have given into our depression, if we would have allowed it to conquer us, we would not be able to do what we're doing, to be as successful as we are. So I want to say thank you. Two things that I need from you that I always ask people when they're on my platform is one, a book reference, a book that maybe you wrote yourself, or a book that has helped you on this spiritual journey, and two, a powerful quote that people can apply to their life.
Okay. So I'm actually writing my book, so I can't reference it. It's not
All
out
right,
yet. So
I
that
can't
one,
wait. I'm gonna get it.
thank you. The book I would one of the ones that really, really helps me. Teal Swan, The Anatomy of Loneliness. That one really, really opened up so much for me, and it really, truly helped me a lot. The quote is, I mean, I've honestly got so many quotes that I've heard, but I've actually got so many quotes that I actually speak of myself. But the one that I always say the most, and you'll truly understand this the more you're on your journey, is a quote by myself, which is, how you feel is correct 100% of the time because it's communication from you to you about you.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, man, to anybody who's tuned in, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that share button, a like button, a subscribe button. Make sure you replay this. Make sure you go back. Make sure you check out all of Arian's stuff. Follow him on Instagram. Tune into his website, YouTube, everything. And until next time, peace, love, and light.